Gloves Off, Tough Talk Sports Podcast with Christopher R. and Danny, talking tough on sports, martial arts, and anything in between. Danny, World Martial Arts Hall of Famer, NFL expert, and New York Football Giants fanatic. Christopher R., businessman, promoter, retired flag football athlete, and boxing aficionado. Sit down and throw down. Gloves Off, Tough Talk with Christopher R. and Danny. Gloves Off, Tough Talk Sports Podcast, presented by the See You at 6 Network.
Hello, welcome to the See You at 6 Network. Today we're bringing to you the Gloves Off Tough Talk with Danielle Orsino. Danielle is an encyclopedia of all football. She will give you all kinds of information that you might be interested in hearing, and as well as go toe-to-toe with her. I know I have questions because I am definitely not a connoisseur. I've played my football in the days on a flag football league. I'm going to jump right in. I would like to bring up Mike from Absolute Motion, our videographer. Mike is a great cameraman, but he believes he should have I believe he should have another title, so I made him production supervisor. Takes the weight off me. I have way too much on my plate. I have no more room in my brain for anything. I'm like an old computer that went out of date. Let's jump right in with Danielle. I will have questions for Mike because he's also a football guy. Danielle, my first question to you is officiating, pass interference calls.
What is a pass interference
call? Tell me what bothers you about all that.
The first thing is does anybody out there even know what a pass interference call is anymore? Because I'm lost on it. I don't know if anybody else is out there, but after reading the comments all over the internet, I went through, I've talked to many football fans, and at this point, no one seems to know what it is, and I don't even think the officials know what it is. The coaches definitely don't.
That's a pretty strong statement.
Well, if you look at the stats, it's a little crazy. I actually went through, first thing I did was, I went through and looked at how many times the coaches actually challenged the calls.
I noticed that a lot this year.
Some did. Your coaches, your more seasoned coaches, Bill Belichick, for instance, or Emperor Palpatine, as I like to call him, did not. He did not challenge any at all. Okay. Sean McDermott for the Buffalo Bills did not challenge any. Kyle Shanahan did not challenge any.
There was one came back to bite the team at the end. He had no more. It was one of the recent
Well, that was a different challenge, yeah.
He had no more.
Belichick had no challenges left. And he's usually pretty good about his challenges, but he did not challenge any pass interference calls. Then you had many other coaches like the recently departed Pat Schumer, who tried several times and just got no justice at all. But many times these coaches just could not figure it out. Bill O'Brien for the Texans said at this point he doesn't even know what it is anymore. He just gives up. He has no idea. Most of his did not get it. But Cliff Kingsbury from the Arizona Cardinals, he wound up doing very well. He challenged too, and he got him overturned, which was great.
Well, explain
one of the few ones.
Explain to the audience for a second the challenge and what they lose, because I've been watching football with my daughter who graduated from URI, and she's a Giants fan, but up there in Rhode Island, there's a lot of Patriots fans. So she got very big into football. Explain, when she asks me these questions, I like to have it clarified for people that don't know. What happens in the challenge? Is there different stages of it?
Well, when you challenge, you throw the red flag.
Of course.
Belichick likes to keep it in his sock so we can get to it very quickly.
Okay.
It depends. You throw it out there, and then you have to have irrefutable evidence that it can be overturned. So it can't. They look at it from every possible angle, the refs, and there's got to be, without a shadow of a doubt, that it can be overturned.
I understand.
They look at it, from every angle. But what can happen now, especially since the Saints-Rams games, where the Saints obviously were robbed of that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
absolutely.
Rams fans. I apologize.
I
but
agree.
Let's face it.
That was their
you guys
game.
knew what was going on there.
That was a game changer.
What they can do is it can also be called from New York. So New York can see it. and above can see it, and they can turn around and call down to the refs and say, whoa, 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 go back. We need to review this again, which happened this year. Happened several times in the games, actually. When I looked at it, like weeks 1 through 4, there were 31 pass interference calls. Of those 31 calls, 7 of them were overturned by upstairs. So Al Riveron actually called in, or one of his lieutenants, and said, no, go back. You guys got this one wrong, and overturn it. So they had a 22.6 percentage. Okay, you're looking at that, and for a new rule coming in, it seems like maybe that's not so bad. But now let's go to the coaches' challenges during those weeks. So the same weeks 1 through 4, we had 25 coaches' challenges for pass interference, offensive and defensive pass interference. Only 4 were reversed.
Wow. Interesting.
Not so great, guys. I'm sorry.
Did you see these and have your own opinion on?
Yeah, there was a couple of them. There was the Sterling Shepard one. There was Giants fan, obviously.
Yeah, we forgot to. I did leave that
There's
out.
a little
I was going to
biasness
say that
there.
at the
Sorry.
end. Our cameraman's rolling his eyes because I left that out, but you can clearly see.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
She's
now,
diehard.
I bleed blue. Now I took it down to weeks 1 through 8. Put it all together. There were 52 pass interference calls. 8 were overturned by the VP, by above, by the powers that be. So we have a 15%. Now during weeks 1 through 8, 44 coaches challenged. Only 5 were overturned. That's 11%.
Okay.
We're not doing too well at this point. So most of the coaches were told by the officiating crews, just stop challenging. Unless it's egregious and it's just so obvious, just stop. And most of them just gave up because I think that's when Bill O'Brien made the comment of, I have no idea what a pass interference call is. And if you look back, there's many examples of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, and if we go just as recently as the Seahawks game, the 49ers in the end zone, I mean, the arm is hooked. He's got it across the chest. He's pulling, and there was nothing. So I think at this point, the NFL really needs to sit back and look at it. I do think that the pass interference challenges should be available. I don't think the rule should come out, but I don't know, get a different color flag. Like, we got to figure something out. I don't think
back
that
to my original question. Just
should it? It does affect. It does get taken out of their challenge pocket, the pool.
Out of their challenge pool for that game.
Yes,
But
it does. It's
I thought they lose downs. I'm sorry, not downs. They actually lose their timeouts.
Yes, they go. Yeah. Well, you lose. What happens is that you lose the challenge. So yes, you lose the timeout. If it doesn't get overturned, you can. Yes.
Right. Okay.
So I think it needs to be put aside. Like, you have a certain amount of pass interference challenges versus regular challenges.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think that's how it should be redone.
Oh, gotcha.
They have to do something
I
because
didn't
at
think
this
of that.
point,
Okay.
or they have to leave it as just the head office can challenge, just the officiating office, the VP can challenge something. We got to work on something here because it's really not going
I thought
well.
that was the game with the Saints where they challenged and they had no more timeouts.
You're thinking
I could be
of the Pats game. That was the Pats game with the touchdown and the whole thing.
Yeah, they had no more.
And look, once again, I'm not one for Palpatine and his dark forces, but he got robbed. But the officiating this season, I think overall, the NFL really needs to sit back and take a look at what they're doing officiating wise. We need a little bit of help because it can go both ways. You have a lot of people that are saying these officials should have a job, 365. And some people feel that the officiating this season proves that point. And others are saying, well, it's the opposite. You want to be paid, for a full year, but so we got to get on the top of that.
So to conclude that the officiating, it sounds to me like, Danny, there's a lot of arguing and hostility at her house during a game.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
To Mike's point, who doesn't yell at a ref? Who doesn't disagree with a ref? I want to move on. I want to ask you a question since I know I can get you going. Tell me about what you think on the Steelers-Browns brawl in November. I mean, what's your feeling on that?
I have a lot of feelings on that. There's a lot of emotions here. Okay, Now, for all of you, if you haven't seen it, but I'm sure most of you have heard the helmet that was heard around the world, the helmet hit.
Yeah.
On November 14th, it was a Steelers-Browns game, and the Steelers weren't doing very well. The Browns were actually winning, go figure. But about 12 seconds left, we had a hit on Mason Rudolph, who was the quarterback for the Steelers, and Myles Garrett drove him to the ground. Okay, was it a late hit? Yeah, it was a late hit. It was. At that point, my personal feeling is the ref should have stepped in, flagged him, roughing the passer. At that point, it might have cooled some heels. While Garrett drove Mason Rudolph to the ground, there was a bit of a skirmish on the ground, let's just call it that. And Mason Rudolph did pull at Myles Garrett's helmet. Now, the story that Mason Rudolph gives is that his hand got stuck. I don't know. I watched the tape. I watched the game live. There was nothing was getting stuck. He also then threw a groin kick at Myles Garrett. This then turned into the helmet being ripped off and Myles Garrett using it somewhat like a discus, let's say, and hitting Mason Rudolph in the head, which then provided him to throw his hands up like this and walk away. I don't know from there, but somehow Myles Garrett wound up on the ground and Ponce kicked Garrett in the head. All in all, $750,000 in fines. Ponce,
That should teach them a lesson.
Oh, it's coming out of your pocket. But Ponce, for the Steelers, was suspended for 3 games originally. Now, Myles Garrett was suspended indefinitely. Before he can enter the next season, he has to kiss the ring of Roger Goodell and, grovel or whatever. Now, Larry Ogunjobi also was taken out for 1 game. He was originally suspended for 2.
What did he do?
He shoved Mason Rudolph to the ground or something.
Okay.
Mason Rudolph only got $50,000. Yes, that's right. No suspension. Read my lips. No suspension on Mason Rudolph. Okay, so everybody appeals. Ponce gets it down to 2 games. Ponce later goes on, December 3rd, goes to PennLive.com, gives an interview that says the fight was worth it. Does that sound like he learned his lesson? I don't think so. Ogunjobi gets all his fines removed, still has to serve his sentence. Myles Garrett goes into this whole confidential investigation, does his appeal, and says, hey, look, was I wrong? Yes, but Mason Rudolph used a racial slur.
Oh, now that came up, huh?
Now that comes up.
Okay.
So he believed, as we all do when we go to these things, he's talking to a lawyer or whatever, a mediator, he believes it's confidential. The NFL's response is, well, why didn't you say anything sooner? And we found no evidence.
Should have been right away.
But here's the thing. He says his first response to reporters after the fight was, they asked him, did he say something to incite you? And he says, I don't know, look at the tape, I'm not saying anything. He didn't want to besmirch Mason Rudolph because he understands in the grand scheme of things, it's heated. You guys are athletes. Maybe the guy...
It's emotionally
Maybe
heated.
the guy said it, he didn't mean it. He didn't want to say anything. But Larry Ogunjobi did back up Myles Garrett and say, he did tell me right when it happened that he said something. I have a problem with this, and this is why I don't lay all of this at Garrett's cleats. 1, I feel the ref should have stepped in.
Okay, that's first and foremost.
First and foremost.
Just right at that point.
Right at that
It was a pass interference.
It was roughing the passer. I feel it was a late hit on the quarterback.
Yeah.
He should have stepped in. Okay? 2 is he also he was trying to be fair to this teammate. Myles Garrett has been a stand-up guy. This year, he's had some little things going on, but up to this point, he's been a stand-up guy. So you got to kind of wonder what else is going on behind the scenes. But him not wanting to say anything and this all being alleged, you're saying it in confidence.
Right.
Why was this leaked out is my question.
Okay.
And that I gotta put that down at the NFL and say, why did you even leak this if he's trying to do the right thing? So I got to question that.
Okay.
And why was everybody else's suspension taken down? And you got to look at Ponce and say, really, you give an interview and say, well, it was worth it? Is that really
you know what,
sad?
Daniel? Let me stop you right there because I know you're very passionate about this stuff. I remember the days of rushing a quarterback in my flag football league. And yeah, there were times when I hit them wrong, I did something, and I'd get up and walk away because they were the number one team. They were undefeated, and they were my old team. So I remember not letting the emotion and the anger get to me because it was Sunday football. It was Sunday morning flag. But what I do remember is the other guys, everybody had to get involved and start yelling. And I said, the ref didn't call it. Let's move on.
Right.
Let's not worry about it. I was always ready for the next play. I wanted the next play. To this point, when I saw that actually happen, the quarterback was hit, the helmet was ripped off. Right?
Right.
Period.
Yep.
To me, that's what I saw.
Okay.
If I rip a quarterback's helmet off, we didn't use helmets then, but thank goodness we were going for the flags. But I did give the business when I could. I mean, I
of
wanted to
course.
shut the quarterback down, so he knew I was coming every time. So that's all I saw. I don't really care. I respect anything that's said racial, that someone gets offended. I don't respect it when it's blown out of a proportion.
Right.
And I most certainly don't talk politics on any side for football,
course.
Roger Goodell, or what's going on in America. What I will say is, with my own eyes, I saw a quarterback get roughed up, and I saw a helmet come off.
Right.
When when someone gets hit with a helmet, you're done. I don't even want to see you anymore. If you've taken it to that level where you've actually physically hit somebody, struck somebody,
Right.
you could have went to the next play and maybe got him again, put your anger into that rush, which I did. It was Sunday morning. I got all the anger out, any frustration. It was a lot of fun. That's my point. You're going deep into detail because you understand all the
Right.
stats and all. I saw one thing. Do you agree with me on that?
Oh, I agree that he should have been ejected from the game. Totally agree with you. 100%. My issue is that I feel overall, I think he was made a little bit of an example of. Do I feel he should have been?
That's a lot.
I don't think, though, Ponce then going out and saying, getting his suspension taken down, and then going out and saying, well, it was totally worth it. When you kicked Mason Rudolph Myles Garrett while he's on the ground, I got a little bit of a problem with that because I don't feel like any lesson was learned here. Meanwhile, Myles Garrett is suspended indefinitely, now has to go back, kiss the ring of Roger Goodell and say, please, please, please let me back in for the following season. I have an issue. I don't feel that
I do feel bad for him.
I just feel like this whole thing was taken to a level and not everybody. And I think Mason Rudolph
Understood.
should have been suspended minimum 1 game because he did escalate
Understood.
it. I just feel Myles Garrett was the fall guy in all of this. And when I
agree.
listen to a lot of the other pundits and even former players speak out, they're all sitting there going, well, that shouldn't have happened. And there's no room for that on the field. Hold on a second. Let's go back a couple years because I remember Pac-Man Jones. And I can remember a lot of other players getting crazy. So for them to all sit there all of a sudden and go,
You getting all this, Mike? Because I don't even know who she's talking
that
about.
doesn't happen anymore. And there have been a lot of hits. I don't feel they're all acting like they're so surprised by this. It gets heated out there. As somebody who, I'm not saying I played football, but I am involved in a sport where physical contact is a must.
We'll get into that another time. We have your trophies displayed.
I've been hit late. I have had my nose broken when the fight was over. I've had all that happen. I know how emotions get. I just feel like maybe we're making Myles Garrett the poster child of something, and it's not necessary. We're not putting it out on everybody's feet. Case in point, January 3rd, let's fast forward a little bit here. Nevin Lawson for the Raiders cornerback, was suspended for 1 game for doing the exact same thing.
The helmet came off?
Helmet came off and he swung it at somebody. The problem is he's got real bad aim.
Okay.
He missed. That's it. And that's exactly what the NFL is saying. The only reason why he was not suspended indefinitely was because he didn't hit the guy.
Okay. All right. So when you...
The NFL, you got to be even-handed. Either taking the helmet off and using it as a weapon, bad. Fire, burn, hot. Helmet, weapon, bad. We suspend you. But you can't suspend him one game and say, well, he missed. Okay, wait a minute. That's a very mixed message that you're sending.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's clear now to me, having listened to you, they sent a message.
I just think it was,
It's clear as day. They sent a message. Now I feel bad for the guy. I have felt bad for him because as time went by, did they have to hit him with that much fine and that much suspension? That's the politics or the organization.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that because that's their job. What I'm not okay with is setting an example of somebody and, like you said, and then not following through when the next time that happens. In today's world, you can't even verbally abuse somebody. So if I push you, you can bring me up on an assault charge if I make contact. So this is football. That's their job, and Roger Goodell has his hands full every time it seems that he is challenged.
I think my point, just the last thing I want to say is that let's think of it like this. Do you think it would matter differently based on the uniform you wear or the market share you're in?
Okay.
How that would go.
No, your points are well taken, and I want to move on to and keep it a little bit on a positive side too, interesting positive side. Which I was going to ask you the next question, and I'd like to save that one.
Okay.
Because that's now things have changed now that the Patriots have lost.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
I want to know Cleveland or bust?
Oh,
Busted.
boy. I'm about busted. Yeah, Cleveland's a little...
Tell me about
Cleveland got some problems there. But I think it's fixable. I do think it's fixable, but let's face it. In the beginning of the season, even before the beginning of the season and before preseason, I think we all had Cleveland high on our list, at least fantasy-wise. And we all thought Cleveland was like, yeah, they're headed for greatness. And
why is that?
Well, they got OBJ. I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, getting OBJ, why? Gettleman, why? Just answer me that. Why? Really? I mean, you got Daniel Jones, you got a hot new quarterback, and then you just sent him out? I still don't. Okay. So anyway, we sent OBJ off to Cleveland. And we're coming off that hot Baker Mayfield streak, and we're looking at, and when you're looking at them on paper between Nick Chubbs,
Jersey behind you.
And everybody else, you're thinking Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubbs, Myles Garrett, Baker Mayfield, and OBJ. I mean, that's like,
Look what I got for you.
I mean, that's...
Is this who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Were you
Hold
crying
on.
when they...
There's a tear there.
Sad when they got rid of him?
There's a tear there.
Okay. All right, so you made your point about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I know there's a controversy at the end of now that he's wants to be traded. Is that correct?
No, he said he built a doghouse and he redid his kitchen, so no. I don't know what to say to that, but yeah, that's what he said in a press conference, is that he built a doghouse, so he doesn't want to go.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Sure, OBJ. I believe you. You know you can always come home. Okay.
All right. So moving on, I want to talk about the return of the dual threat quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
Action Jackson. I mean, he is what he is.
1206 rushing yards. 7 yards for TDs.
I mean, he is the return of it. I mean, we haven't seen a quarterback like this in a really long time. Everybody compares him to Michael Vick. Sorry. I'll let personal feelings go aside.
Yeah, please. We
Anyway.
don't want to hear how you really feel.
God, you don't want to hear how I really feel
so...
about Michael Vick. But overall, I mean, I think what Lamar has done is we've seen it with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it with Deshaun Watson. I mean, two amazing quarterbacks. But before then, we had seen glimpses of it. Russell Wilson, he is a dual threat, mainly because of his height. I think we're going to see it more with Kyler Murray once he figures out how he's going to be. I mean, it's only his rookie year, and he did have a great rookie year.
How old is he, by the way? Do you know?
Kyler Murray's 22.
22.
Yeah. I mean, he's young.
He moves like it.
But once he's settled, I think we're going to see more out of him. Some people call Aaron Rodgers a dual threat. I'm going to be very honest. Aaron Rodgers is a scrambler, phenomenal arm, but I don't consider him a dual threat in that sense. When you're looking at a dual threat, you're looking at a Lamar Jackson, a Deshaun, a Patrick Mahomes. When you're thinking pocket passers, your Peyton Mannings, your Tom Brady's, your Terry Bradshaw's, Dan Marino's.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking at it. The first real dual threat, you're looking at Bobby Douglas, 1970s, for the Chicago Bears. After that, you didn't see it. They went more pocket passers because their jobs at that point was survey the field, look down the field. Mobility was not an issue. Yeah. It was just a big guy and a big arm.
Step up in the pocket.
But then after that, you didn't see really anything until Randall Cunningham. That changed everything in the 80s. Because now you saw somebody who could beat them with speed and agility, and that confused defenses. Sure. He ushered in, believe it or not, which a lot of people, once again, don't give Steve Young enough credit. He was a dual threat. Then you had Steve McNair come in, Dante Culpepper. These guys started mixing it up and showing that a quarterback could run. After that, Michael Vick came in, and Colin Kaepernick. He really did. Now, he brought it in and ushered it in. And then from there, when you talk to these younger quarterbacks, they all kind of make the same comments about Michael Vick and Colin Kaepernick and bringing it in. And then Cam Newton, Superman. He also brought height into it and that strong man kind of look. They brought it in. But getting back to Lamar, if you think about it, Lamar came in, and just to separate, Derrick Henry is our top rusher this season. So when you think about it, Lamar had 1,206 yards. Okay? So that's impressive. But Derrick Henry had 1,540. So the difference is only 334 yards between a quarterback and a running back where that's his only job. Lamar had more than Saquon Barkley, who was Rookie of the Year last year.
Interesting.
So, and Le'Veon Bell only had 789 yards, rushing yards. So Lamar is really eating it up this year. I just think that he's going to be something, and he's really showing us what a mobile quarterback can really, really do. The thing is him staying healthy.
Yeah.
And having those blockers. But he's got to watch. He can't put too much on his shoulders.
Well, all the young quarterbacks are showing a hell of a threat for defenses today because they are mobile and they can get that first down.
Yeah, it really does. You really have to look at how you're going to set your defense up at that point. Yeah. Do you want to look at a nickelback, safety? What are you going to do in order to really work it and figure that out? It's also going to put in someone like Derrick Henry. What do you do now? But I think it also goes back to giving Tebow a little more credit than what he got at the time.
Okay.
I think Tebow actually deserves a little bit more credit than he got. Because when you think about Tebow, even what he did with the Broncos in that playoffs and those little miracles and those little spurts you got from Tebow, there might have been something there. I just don't think he ever matched in an offense that could really figure out what to do with him.
I think the Jets would find it very debatable with you.
But I don't think the Broncos would, because the Broncos got a little something out of him.
Okay.
And they hadn't seen it. But I do think if you were to take Tebow then and pop him in now, I think Tebow would be somebody that you might say, you know what? He could possibly do something now. Was he a polarizing figure to some people? Whatever. But looking at Tebow now, he might actually fit into an option.
I was always a believer since playing in 3 leagues starting in 1992. I was always a firm believer in quarterbacks like Tebow. Put him with a great offense that is phenomenal, and let's see what he can do. That's how I always saw things. It just, however the business is run in football, I understand.
Right.
From our smaller league, which I was the sponsor and I played, they used to call me Captain CS. I just enjoyed the competition part of giving it a whirl, giving it a try to beat the best. And when I got to play against the undefeated team, which was my old team, I was in my glory every week.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Tim Tebow, because I really felt bad for how that turned out for him with the Jets, because I felt he had a lot of talent.
I felt, yes.
Himself. I agree with
think
you.
he just never was able to really develop. I think the same thing with
Yeah,
RG3.
I
I know
agree.
RG3 is playing backup for Lamar right now. And when you think about it, RG3 was probably the precursor to Lamar to an extent. And it's funny because I've seen people that have watched Lamar live now with RG3.
Yeah.
And they say RG3 is Lamar running in quicksand.
Okay.
You know,
That's
interesting. He's got similar routes and whatnot. But when you think, I think RG3 could have had a longer career, but he was a workhorse. And he tried to do too much too quickly,
much
but he
too
wasn't
quick, sure.
developed properly.
Okay.
So I think sometimes with some of these quarterbacks that we've seen that have kind of flamed out too quick, it's a matter of they burned too bright and they didn't have time to develop. And I think Tebow could have been somebody, like I said, if you put him now, what he
Okay.
was then, I
Good.
think he could have been something.
No,
I really
that's
do.
interesting. I want to move on because time's getting short here. I wanted to ask you to speak about Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, the beast mode. Beast mode is back. It's very interesting because he retired. Then he was a Raider for a very short time, and I don't think he really did
I didn't
much.
know that.
Yeah, I don't think Gruden knew what the heck to do with him. And
He's
now
with the-
he's
back
back.
with the Seahawks,
He's back
yeah.
with the Seahawks.
34 yards,
Played
12
one game,
touchdowns.
12 touches, 34
Touches,
yards.
34 yards, yeah.
And I think for the playoffs, for the wild card, I think they need to get him the ball more.
Get in his hands, yeah.
Because his energy.
Yeah.
I think his energy is key.
Yeah.
Because when you watched him play and just when he took the field, it was amazing to see the fans just so excited to see him. He didn't look like he lost a step.
Yeah.
When you watched him, I was expecting like, okay, here he goes. He's gonna need a couple times to warm up.
Yeah.
He just jumped right
Jumped in,
like
yeah.
it was nothing. So I think he's gonna be pretty exciting to see, based on if he
can't
can
wait.
get in there and they know what to do. And Pete Carroll, I'm sure, will figure it out.
I can't wait to see how it goes, which leads me right into Drew Brees breaking the record. He's at 544 TD record.
Yeah, he broke it on December 16th.
Yeah, that was 540.
540. He hit, and then
96.67
his completion, yes,
percentage.
highest.
I saw that game where he beat it, where the touchdown was called back.
Yeah.
When that was the winning record or the tying.
And Sean Payton didn't know what his completion was. And he didn't even know that he was up to do it
Yeah.
until after.
After.
And his assistants, he had said to his assistants, like, why didn't you tell me? And they said, well, we didn't want to jinx it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was smart because Drew Brees was on fire that whole drive.
He was,
And then the next drive, he was amazing.
He looked really good. I think Drew Brees, I think he has it in him to go further this go around.
We'll see. Wow.
But don't want to jinx him.
Yeah.
Don't want to jinx him. But as a pocket passer, as we were discussing,
Beautiful.
one of the best.
What a great job.
technique-wise.
I was
Class
very
act.
impressed.
I would like
very
to
impressed
see
by
what he
that.
does. Yeah, definitely.
I actually was going to miss that game because I was supposed to be on a production in the city, and my daughter said, "We're watching the Saints tonight.
Yeah.
You can't go." I said, "Well, I will make it back in time for that." All right, real quick, surprise retirements, Luck and Grant.
Luck and Gronk. Gronk, I think we all knew it was time.
Well, from the back surgery and whatnot.
He's beaten up. I mean, he was beaten up.
Big guy like that doing what he does on the field. There's no two ways about it.
It's funny. He's a tight end who runs like a running back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he
Amazing.
just plows into things, and I don't think he cared. He kind of reminded me of the Thing from the Fantastic Four. He just smashes and runs and just doesn't
Awesome.
care. But it was time.
More importantly, he is a big target for a tall quarterback.
They're missing him.
And with the arm that Brady had and the pinpoint accuracy, Gronk is just lay out.
Yes.
And that ball was caught.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree, and I think
Amazing.
they're missing him big time.
Okay, Danielle, Danny, we need to wrap. I just real quick want to say thank you. I hope we covered everything. Anything we didn't, our viewers can DM us on Instagram.
Yes.
And if you have questions or comments and you'd like to get involved in the discussion, please feel free to send your questions or comments, and we'll pick it up again at another episode. We have many to do. As you can see, the set is set up because Danny's a diehard Giants fan. We'll get into that sometime, how that all happened for you and why the Giants. I want to throw a reach out to another Giants fan, our sponsor, Chef Rob. Rob Del Balzo is really he's due to come on the show, one of our episodes, and talk some Giants. Also, last thing, I want to reach out to Joe Coffee in the city. I've been doing a lot of business with them. I look forward to speaking to them further about getting them on the show. They showed interest. Joe Coffee is a big couple of coffee houses in the city that we promote through our See You at 6 network, the Coffee House, with our host, Carmine Danisco at Inventors Launchpad. Last thing,
Yes.
Danielle and I went to Comic-Con.
Yes, we did.
I
We had a good
represented
time.
her there. She went as,
Catwoman,
and the day before,
Poison Ivy,
and the year before,
Wonder Woman,
and the day before you were.
Black Canary.
Danielle has some interesting things coming up in the future with a book she's writing, a novel,
Yes.
metaphysical. We call it
Fantasy.
Fantasy. But she brought me my Comic-Con coffee cup, and I'm very proud of it because, as we will be doing on one of our episodes, our Coffee House podcast is geared toward saving calories, have coffee, and diminish those cravings. It worked for me, and I want to say thank you for joining us, and to Mike, Absolute Motion, our production supervisor, and we'd look to pick it up again next week with some more episodes that would interest you.